Chapter 20, Dream World. Kaiba and his marshals search the temple and rush towards the secret room. This is where the nightmare began. What will Kaiba and company find here? Red 2 standing by, all four lit and in the green. And if you know what's coming up, if you've been paying attention, you will know what's coming up anyway. Let's take everyone in and let's get going. The end game plays out exactly the same. So, we will be able to breeze through this, throw in a few profiles, and I'll discuss anything I need to. Let's get going on this one, shall we? We are nearly at the end of Kaiba's story, and it's been quite the journey. Amazing! It's like something out of the future. You don't know when to give up, and neither do my scriptwriters apparently. They've wound up giving me the exact same dialogue because, of course, you might have played this story first, but yes, you could have lived here knowing that you'd beaten me and destroyed the Empire, all that stuff. Is it a hologram? I don't have time to play in your fantasy world anymore. Now stop this machine and let us out. I'll let you live. Barely. Still as arrogant as ever, Kaiba. Idiots like you never cease to amaze me. At least my scriptwriters have added in something different this time. I'll give them credit for that, honestly. But this, as the audience knows, but you don't, is the Kingdom Control Block, the heart of this entire world. You are all standing on a circuit that's just above the heart of the computer. Yes, we've heard this speech, but you haven't. They're much like nerves in the human body. They both carry electronic signals, blah, blah, blah. Closer to the human brain than anybody has ever been. I really should have made this a little bit more tailored to you. Despite all the understanding we have about the human brain, we don't entirely know how it works. We certainly don't know how people wind up getting gigantic egos like yours, Kaiba. I'm only wasting my breath. You're all just bugs in the system now. By that I mean that the system considers you to be an error that must be eliminated. Everything you've done up until now has been within the scope of the character, all that jazz. You probably did go off the rails quite a bit, which is incredibly frustrating, but then again, Seto Kaiba only plays for Seto Kaiba. And I'll just have to activate the system defenses, and they should, ideally, destroy you. Not that they worked last time. Oh well, my plan is close to completion and I don't have time to deal with you. We will never meet again, so I'll take this opportunity to say farewell. Bye-bye! And I'm perfectly aware I'm tempting fate. Why did I say that anyway? I'll find you yet, Scott. When I do, I'm gonna make you pay for everything you've done to us! So we basically have the same opponents as we did last time. They're just 30 levels higher. So if we head out that way, right, everybody gets a battle. Mokuba? Head out this way for me, please. Where should I send Rex? Rex should probably take... Let me see now. Which team is first in this base? It's probably the Jinzo team. So we'll send Rex up north because Rex will have a better time against Jinzo. I'll have to keep Ishizu on hand. Or maybe Labyrinth Ruler. Labyrinth Ruler probably has a bit more oomph. But we'll slowly make our way through everything and wind up winning the day yet again. Now this would probably be more accurate for someone of Rex's limited abilities. But I want to give him something serious. Bones in this one is a bit of a crunch character, so I'll probably have him deal with the Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. Let's see. Bones head up this way, and Rex is jamming traffic. That massive monster circle is a bit of a problem. But all the way over here, Mokuba will be able to take on Giant Mech Soldier and the two Ryukishin powers. That's going to be a bit of an easy one, but we'll have to navigate very carefully through the maze to wind up getting every battle. We'll need smaller circles, and I'll introduce some monsters as we wind up wandering along our merry way. Rotate the camera a little bit so we can see our monsters on the information superhighway. We are finally coming to the end of the game. Again. It has been quite the journey. I won't lie, it's been difficult at times. They both guard. Yes, they did. Not that it's going to help them much, because I'll just smack through their defenses and take them out. Take them out. Because none of my attacks can miss. So, I've talked about this at length in Yugi's story. I love the way everything is designed in this particular chapter. The battlefields are very creative. I do think this game had good art direction. I do think it did a very good job putting all the models together. Because, yeah, while they're a bit sort of janky 3D models and things, I do also appreciate the fact that they had such great work on the lighting. The monsters do actually look pretty good still. The way the shadows worked was really impressive. Overall, I do believe this is a pretty solid game. It's a bit janky, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Was very janky around this time, and I'm going to get to Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards in order to demonstrate just the level of jank involved. There was some seriously entertaining jank around this time. And I really do regret that they didn't do more games like this. Because, yeah, sure, it's really fiddly, it's a bit strange. It's probably more like the, Ogre Battle series? But that's not exactly a problem. This series has a lot of good ideas as far as I'm concerned. Or at least this game does, and I would very much love to see more monsters. But at the same time, there's also a good degree of simplicity in this, because quite a lot of them are normal monsters. There are some effect monsters along the way, but at the same time quite a few are normal monsters. And the more complicated the game gets over time, I think it might be harder to translate some of that into the game. I think this is probably best kept as an artifact of the simplicity in the series. Millennium Golem has some AP at last. Like, it's fiddly in its own way, but it's from an era where the game wasn't super fiddly. It wasn't super complicated. It wasn't, like, particularly troublesome. So over there we've got... Yep, so I'll send Weevil and Pegasus around this way. Weevil can lead off... Yeah, there's just something about the simplicity that makes the game a lot better. Rex has made it. The simplicity of the card game and... he's got the tougher team. But then again... Well... Let's just give it a crack. So, what do we have to deal with? This is probably going to be an incredibly arduous battle, and I will more than likely have to get Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon onto this one. Because that armor is really going to decrease the damage we do. We're already not doing that much. I mean, even the boost from Thunder Dragon's attack isn't going to supplement very much. It's always been the big problem with these monsters. It's not worth leveling up the dragons, it seems, until you can actually get the opportunity to really stick levels into your monsters, which I'm probably going to do later on. We just have to keep chipping away, dish out as much damage as we can, and use our fusion. Because it's been a little while since we saw Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon that isn't quite Thunder Dragon and just sort of had the appellation stuck on it because somebody was really lazy with the art. Yeah, it's just one prolonged slog of chip damage. Slowly but surely, we are getting there though. Just like one of the... Like I said, basically, just like that Psyduck fight back in Pokemon the first movie. Smack, smack, smack. Slow, it's drawn out, and it's not particularly exciting, but Rex has tried his hardest, bless his heart, to make himself useful. He doesn't always succeed. Okay, that's a little bit of a nuisance. Might be able to knock out Machine King depending on what happens, but I'm really not keen on what those cyber soldiers can do. Alright, so it's attacked Megazala, okay. Alright, well, we can at least take Machine King out of the picture. Next attack. There we go. One down. Next, I will have to heal Two-Headed King Rex, because otherwise I'm not getting to fuse. YuGiOh, thank you, Thunder Dragon. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to try out a few more monsters, get some good levels into some other ones along the way. Because as you get through the campaigns a bit more, the starting levels of the monsters get higher and higher. And subsequently, you will be able to wind up getting a lot more experience. Really good advantage in all fairness. You can basically just level up some lower level monsters, get some good stats onto them, keep them alive, and away you go. So, just keep smacking them around, just crash into them, breathe fire on them, bludgeon your way through, because brute force is sometimes the only thing the enemy understands. Brute force is pretty much also the only thing Rex understands, because, well, interestingly enough, many dinosaurs do just go in for raw strength. There is sort of an unofficial rule of 3,000. That is, if a level 7 or 8 or higher monster can be normal summoned and it has 3,000, more than 3,000 attack, it tends to have some sort of drawback. It's an unofficial rule, but it is, to a degree, prevalent in the game. However, there has never been any... Well, there has never been anything official from Konami regarding it. Dinosaurs have occasionally wound up shattering that rule of 3,000 into tiny pieces. Well, at least we get to do heavy damage to machines. We won't win this fight straight off. But we'll do good damage nonetheless. Or, well, we'll do damage. So there we are. We have done damage. We have not really got a lot of experience on Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. Not as much as I'd like. But yeah, we have inflicted damage on the enemy. Dragonic Fury's a magic technique, isn't it? Do many dragons get magic? Oh, is it Dragonic Fury or Dragon Treasure? I'll have to end up finding that out, just in case. But there we are, we have won. But we have not finished them off. I will have to see what level Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon is. I'll show you that in the next one. But for now... Rex... Move in and we'll just skip through this and then I'll have Rex retreat so someone else can finish off the other team. Acid Rain made its international debut as a participation card for Duelist League Series 8, then reappeared with Duel Terminal 2 in North America only. In Japan it debuted in Volume 4 and proved a bit easier to find. Acid Rain has 6 counterparts, all of which focus on destroying specific types of monsters. Last Day of Witch targets spellcasters, Exile of the Wicked removes fiends, Warrior Elimination, believe it or not, removes warriors, Eradicating Aerosol goes after insects, Breath of Light goes after rock types, not sure why, and Eternal Drought goes after fish. You're probably not going to use the last two very much, and Acid Rain goes after machine monsters, with what appears to be Cyber Raider becoming rusted and corroded from the downpour. This card and its counterparts can be useful in tandem with DNA Surgery, but in this card's case, the more powerful System Down banishes all your opponent's machines on the field and in the graveyard for the cost of 1,000 life points. So this probably isn't really worth it. Metal Morph made its international debut as a promo with Forbidden Memories alongside the Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. It's appeared a lot since then. In Japan, it debuted with the same game but seems to have fewer showings. Metal Morph is admittedly a very practical power-up card, much better than sacrificing the Red Eyes Black Dragon or Zoa for their useless metal counterparts. Those are dead draws if you actually get them, they have to be summoned from the deck. Equipped with Metal Morph, a monster can beat down a large number of powerful opponents thanks to the ability to gain half the attack of their target. So for example, it would take a monster with 5,450 attack for the Red Eyes to be unable to even equal it. Admittedly, it's only when the monster actually attacks, but it's still a devastating punch the metal forms sorely lack. Metal Morph is well worth it. Alrighty, back into battle with Bones. This one is going to be pretty easy. We know what to expect, but the Red Eyes actually has its special attack now. It also only has 3 AP. Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon is always more dangerous. I wonder. Whoops. No, it still hasn't got the ability to poison anything, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. Oh well, we'll just take this team down pretty easily. Because the ability to spread status conditions is going to be incredibly handy. You're going to find out why later on. And we'll just lock that down. The Red Eyes Black Dragon regular has awful speed. We should be faster than it, ideally. So yeah, you lock them down and then you knock them out. This combination is pretty much unfair. Fortunately, the AI doesn't seem to use a lot of monsters that paralyze opponents outside certain teams. So any monster with status guard winds up being really, really useful. You can use magic and things like that, but paying attention to abilities and structuring your team the right way makes for a really big advantage. It doesn't help a lot of my strategies when one of those random AIs does have status guard, but it comes in handy. Well, it's always helpful to actually have something like that. And have we got it? No, it's still clinging to life. So yeah, that's what the armor ability does. It's incredibly handy. But it ultimately doesn't do much when you're facing a massive onslaught of sheer power. And also that you can't do anything, and we get the really, really nice little image in the background that just sort of repeats itself to infinity, and Red Eye's Black Dragon actually does the intelligent thing. It's just that it always winds up looking awkward because it doesn't actually turn its body to use its special attack. Special attacks don't do that, which is always a little bit weird. Like, they'll position themselves better so that their attack actually targets their direct opponent. But when it comes to special attacks, you'll have, for example, the Red Eye's Black Dragon, as we saw there, breathing fire out of the side of its mouth. They couldn't have, say, had it focus on the middle monster? I don't know. Anyway, really good levels for Bones' team. Very good levels indeed. So, Battery Connect liberated. We want to move Weevil's team now. Up here. And then Labyrinth Ruler is slowly sort of plugging away. Rex, I will probably have to send in shortly after. Because, well, Rex's team takes up the road. Rex's team is just one gigantic roadblock, and travelling along behind that is essentially just being stuck behind a bus for ages. Nobody likes being stuck behind a bus. I need to move my box as well. Oh no, wait, it's Parrot Dragon. Which is probably faster than Hercules Beetle. Alright, next battle. Yes, good timing. Cybersaurus and Jinzo, they're ordinary. This is the team I wanted Rex to face, but Rex acquitted himself pretty well. In all fairness. So, none of these enemies have healing capacity as far as I know, and their attack still sucks. Jinzo actually gets magic, and it's got Cyber Energy Shock. So Jinzo actually gets level 3 magic. That's a really good thing to note. I'll take out the Cybersauruses because I don't envision Jinzo being a big threat. None of them have any particularly high grade of power, which I've complained about quite a lot. I mean, you compare it to Labyrinth Tank and it's just ridiculous. But Water Girl is doing alright. She will gradually get more AP as she goes through higher levels. Some monsters wind up being like that. They start out a little bit iffy, but wind up becoming incredibly strong as you go along the way. Or at least maybe not incredibly strong, but certainly serviceable. Jinzo decides not to do anything. I don't know why it wound up being a level 7 monster in the manga, it's weird. It was level 7 in the manga and 6 in the actual card game. Which made it fairly handy. I suppose Spell Canceller, which dealt with spells, had less attack and defense, sort of as a compensation because decks can get by alright without traps. But spells are often a key factor of many decks. Unless, of course, you're playing Super Heavy Samurai, which are designed around not playing spells and traps. A little bit fiddly perhaps, but a pretty interesting style of play, especially since, as I mentioned in the profile for Total Defense Shogun, some of them actually can wind up attacking from defense position. Okay, so magic does half damage if the opponent is guarding. Nice to know that. I didn't actually realize that before, but there we are. Now I do. I've learned something. Well, I thought Jinzo was dead in all fairness. There we go. We'll have this one in the bag though. Unless of course there is a random miss somewhere along the way, because now that I've said, well, there's your random miss somewhere along the way. Not too bad. So it's going to be interesting trying out a whole new set of monsters along the way. I probably could have done that with Shadow Ghoul because I mean it's not that great, but then again Labyrinth Ruler's team really isn't much chop. Oof, critical. Labyrinth Tank does not mess around. Good-o. Now we can just get back to moving around the area, picking up experience, and just doing my best. We will clear our way through. We only have... well, we have half the opponents gone. Now, Rex... just sort of wander along, and then head north once you get to the middle of the road. Oh, so it's where the edge of the circle goes. That's right. Right. Stop and move. And then we can get back to our logistics. There really isn't that much new to say about the actual level itself. Not much new to say about the way this level pans out. But we should be able to make the most of all our battles, get some decent levels into our team. But yeah, I was mentioning I want to play the Sacred Cards for the channel, because it's a really interesting and very, very janky game. It shows just how different a lot of those early Yu-Gi-Oh games actually were. It's so weird to think of. But there were some really interesting ideas they had that could make for good games along the way. That could be pretty good ideas. We'll just have to see how it all goes. I'm going to have to rotate the camera so that I can work out the best position for everyone to be. I'll tell you what, I'll have Parrot Dragon hold here. Then I'll probably have to have Hercules Beetle just move out of the way. Moving through this chapter is a pain in the backside. Oh, if I can get a Shizu moving, we should be fine. Assuming I don't lose where I am on the map. Still never been great with directions. Probably never going to be as long as I live. If I've got a good map on my hands, I'm fine. But yeah, otherwise it's a bit awkward. Just a bit of micromanagement goes into making sure this level winds up panning out very smoothly. And I'm not always that great in micromanagement. It would be very interesting for me to try a Pikmin game, for example, because, well, I'd just have to guess so much. I'd just sort of... I'd be fumbling around, I'd be occasionally tempted to kill the Pikmin, because I'm mean like that. Let's see if we can get it off the wall. Shizu's fine to go up there. But let's take on the first opponent here. Which, to be fair, we've pretty much seen. I mean, in all fairness, we could probably skip it, but we've let everyone have time in the spotlight unless they're just sort of, you know, finishing everything off. Yeah, the whole armor thing does come into play with these. It's pretty much, seems like standard machine abilities. Which one is the strongest? Giant Mech Soldier, just. It's like Road Adept and armor. fairly standard abilities for a lot of machine monsters. But yeah, it just makes me think about a lot of things, just how much everything's developed in terms of the game over time. Like, we've gone from these weird and janky and interesting, very strange at times games to basically, well, it very much follows formula. It follows the card game. It's quite often the way in a lot of games that there's sort of a formula with things. Like, okay, that is completely understandable. You actually do need some sort of core structure that winds up being the definition of what you do with your series. There's a basic idea and you can freshen that up, in all fairness. Okay, so you can't break guard. I don't think you can break guard with special attacks. They'll hit, but they won't do a lot of damage. Or in the case, as we saw there, they'll do absolutely zero. But yeah, it is always nice to change up the formula from time to time. Because, well, sometimes you do need to freshen things up. Like, we've had new ideas for the Legend of Zelda games. Breath of the Wild, I don't necessarily like the way Breath of the Wild ultimately turned out. But on the other hand, I do like the ideas. I do like the way it sets things up. I don't necessarily like the game sort of as it is, because I feel it has too many little quibbles and irritations. But what it does get right, it gets absolutely beautifully right, and I would not be opposed to having another game, well, more games in its style that just polish things and add some of the older elements in as well. I haven't got around to playing Legends Arceus at the time of recording. I may wind up getting to it eventually. But I like the open world idea. I like the way they've chopped and changed things. Those new approaches are actually beneficial in the long run, and they help keep things fresh. That's not helpful. It is nice to actually change those things up. Like, you've had changes to the Mario formula here and there, even though there was kind of a let's do everything the same around the time of New Super Mario Bros. And I think that's why a lot of people love the GameCube era so much, because Nintendo wasn't afraid to do things a bit differently. And it was kind of sad that they didn't always experiment, because there were some really, really brilliant ideas along the way that have popped up. There were some really memorable games for the GameCube. They're quite well recognised, and when Nintendo has experimented and done something that's a little bit goofy, something that's just out of the ordinary, we get some really good results. Like, there's a game I really want to go back to on the DS, Pokemon Conquest. I'd love to get that again someday, because it combines the gameplay of Pokemon with the Nobunaga's Ambition series, which is like tactical RPGs that focus on the Sengoku period. You've got specific Pokemon which have perfect links with various warlords, or at least the Samurai Warriors incarnation thereof, because it's a great collaboration with Koei Tecmo. Why are so many important attacks missing? Like, it's a really, really creative game with some very interesting approaches to things. Like, the DS era had some very interesting games. The Wii U era had some pretty good games, which we've seen has been vindicated by history, but there's just something about the charm and the character, and the something different from the GameCube era that really enhances things. Like, look at Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. It is beautifully presented, it is entertaining, it is incredibly fun to play. Like, even Mario Golf Advance Tour is a lot of fun. It is a very enjoyable game. And then you wind up with crap like Super Rush. Mario Golf Super Rush is not, strictly speaking, a truly horrible game. its greatest sin, like, it is a functional game. It turns on. Its greatest sin is that it's bland, it's boring, it doesn't have any charm or character to it. It is utterly devoid of anything that actually made the Mario Golf series entertaining. Even the original, as I sort of mucked it up playing those games for the channel, and I do kind of regret that. The original Mario Golf is janky as all hell. But, crucially, it's fun, it's easy to play, it's incredibly entertaining. It's still a really, really good game. And the fact that it still has a good degree of character in it, there's still something interesting to it, is the most important thing about it. Super Rush's the character animations are so bland and basic. The courses do look nice, but they're also bland and basic. There's no flair, there's no charm, there's no creativity. It does not feel at all like a seriously fun game. It just feels like wallpaper. It feels like a video game that you would wind up... I actually have a shot at killing this one. That you would basically wind up selling by the yard. If you went into a fabric shop and you wanted to buy a measure of video game, you could come out with Super Rush. It's just boring. I did not have fun with it. I hated the fact that the resolution randomly tended to drop as well. It just wasn't fun. It was just really, really ordinary. And I mean, there are worse games in terms of ones that are made horribly. There are games that are legitimately... Wow, we do not like Cyber Commander. It's got 2 criticals. But yeah, there are games which are actually worse. But the problem is that I think I'd say I can have more fun with a game that is bad if it's bad in the right ways. Like, I'm going to be honest, Superman 64 is never going to win any awards for Game of the Year. It is quite rightly considered one of the worst games of all time. But my god, if you are in the right mindset, you can laugh your head off. You can laugh until you give yourself a headache, screwing around with the glitches. You can basically just have a whale of a time because you know the game is bad. You know it's terrible. But it's because it's so utterly terrible that you can have fun trying to make Superman glitch through the floor and do all sorts of strange and stupid things. Some games are just horrible and don't have any means of redeeming themselves. But some games that are bad are still entertaining. A game that is boring is, as far as I'm concerned, is ultimately irredeemable because it doesn't give you any sense of fun. It's part of the reason I'm so hard on Triforce Heroes. It's not fun. In addition to its myriad other flaws, it's just not fun. I like Four Swords Adventures. I do legitimately think it is a fun game. At the very least, it is interesting. It was doing something that hadn't been done before. And yes, it suffered from Miyamoto meddling with things in the middle of the game and forcing the plot to be changed. But it still presented a unique and interesting experience that was an extreme pain in the ass to play because of how expensive it was to actually get everything. But it's a fun game nonetheless. It's perfectly playable in single player or in multiplayer, whereas Triforce Heroes is actually not playable, depending on what mood the level wants to take and how many people you have. Because sometimes you can wind up in a level that will actually be a hell of a lot easier with one person, like the level where you fight Vulture Vizier, but then you'll wind up with a whole lot of levels that you simply can't complete with any efficiency unless you have 3 people, and you will wind up alternating between these, often in the same world. It's a real pain in the ass to actually play. Like, part of the reason I don't like Breath of the Wild is because it annoyed me. It was frustrating, but it wasn't boring. Triforce Heroes is boring. I don't necessarily like the Sinnoh games. Well, I don't like Diamond and Pearl that much. The originals are actually pretty technically impressive, but I find them incredibly irritating and poorly paced. And yet, compared to X and Y, I tend to rate X and Y as one of my least favourite Pokemon games, not because they're bad, but because a lot of the stuff is just boring. I don't remember a lot of it. The characters weren't interesting. Like, for all the problems Sword and Shield has, the character designs are legitimately interesting and catch my attention, and I wish they did more with them. The Pokemon designs are legitimately interesting. A lot of the Kalos Pokemon sucked as far as I was concerned, and I just didn't remember anything about a lot of the characters, other than that Lysander cribbed off Hugo Drax in the movie Moonraker, Professor Sycamore was an idiot for trusting him, and Diantha was really, really underused. Stuff like that. I mean, in terms of gameplay, X and Y are actually pretty solid because you've got a really, really big Pokédex selection. It's just, they've got a lot of good ways to play, and there are some interesting ideas, but I absolutely hate a lot of the Pokemon. I absolutely hated the fact that Aurorus was so terrible. I couldn't KO anything with what is it? Shoot, it's Pyroar, that's it. I couldn't KO anything with Pyroar. Pangoro had great attack, but nothing else going for it. There were so many Kalos Pokemon that I thought had flaws. Okay, so Rocket Boost attack drains the target's attack by 500 as well as doing damage. Nice little technique. It's based on Rocket Warrior's ability. So yeah, I tend to be a little bit harsher on Kalos because it's boring. It could have done with the fix-up. I'm gonna be honest, it could have done with a fix-up. But I'm probably harsher all told on the original Diamond and Pearl because of the fact that they were so incredibly infuriating. Ah. Oh well. Should have checked what its attack was. But I do give them a lot of credit for everything they did on the technical side of the spectrum. I don't really have much to say about X and Y other than I do feel it was wasted potential. But when you take all the problems that I think the original Diamond and Pearl had, you keep them, and then you make them as boring as all hell, you wind up with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I couldn't finish it. I couldn't stomach finishing it. I couldn't be bothered, even knowing that events for Darkrai, Arceus, and Shaymin were coming up. I could not be bothered completing that game because it was boring. I've even reevaluated how I feel about X and Y. I'm prepared to admit that they had their good points. I still find them boring and I still find them very flawed. I don't hate them as much as Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But I do think that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are really not good games. And not in the sense of you can have fun with this. They're kind of rush jobs. And they've got all the flaws of the original Diamond and Pearl. The Grand Underground is nice, but why couldn't you have just added the Platinum Pokédex? Because, I mean, the original Underground needed fixing because it was nearly impossible to catch Spiritomb if, like me, you didn't actually have any friends. You would actually just have to see it in the Pokédex from the battle against Cynthia, which was a pain in the ass to get to. You've got all that to deal with. You had a raft of glitches that basically showed the game was rushed out the door. It was unready, poorly created and kept all the problems of Diamond and Pearl with only a couple of nods to Platinum. Because the problem was, I've said this before, I said it even before we heard that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were coming out. We've got remakes of the Sinnoh games, they're called Platinum version. Platinum version is so good that there is absolutely no point just remaking Diamond and Pearl, because while those games introduced a lot of awesome technical elements, the original Diamond and Pearl utterly pale in comparison to Platinum. Platinum is just significantly better in pretty much every way. You could easily have had the actual expanded Pokédex selection in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because you don't. The Pokemon which you get from the Grand Underground do not actually show up in the Pokédex like they did in Platinum version, which is really strange. I don't know, they may have added a couple of other things. I don't know if they added the Battleground or not. They couldn't even be bothered adding the Battlefront. I think they added maybe a Battle Tower or something like Diamond and Pearl had, but they couldn't be bothered adding the Battle Frontier. Like, this is why, for all their flaws, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are so brilliant, because they added so many little things. They went above and beyond to create an excellent experience. Platinum is still better in terms of overall gameplay because they have much better balancing and a very strong Pokédex selection. And some of the old flaws from Gold and Silver are still there. But Heart Gold and Soul Silver make a much better experience. The way the games are presented, the way everything comes together helps overcome those flaws and make a legitimately magical experience. They really become something special. And that's the problem with, I think, with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, that they jazz everything up, but the problem is the bits they improved were bits that you could fit into literally any Pokemon game. You could put the Dex Nav into any Pokemon game and it would be a good game. You could put Super Training into any Pokemon game and it would be a good game. If you took away Super Training and the Dex Nav from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you are left with very little. You are left with a game that does remake Ruby and Sapphire, but tacks on a whole lot of unnecessary elements that don't really improve the game as far as I'm concerned. Like, I have significant disdain for the Delta episode, because I think that Zinnia is presented in a very unlikable and somewhat hypocritical fashion. She comes across as incredibly arrogant, smug, and overconfident. Of course, not realizing that her plan could wind up backfiring and screwing everyone over, but she absolutely refuses to consider any possibility that she might be wrong, that she might be going down the wrong path. The only reason she actually winds up getting anywhere is ultimately because you are able to help her out with magical protagonist powers. And it kind of sucks for Steven, because Steven is full on averting the tendency of other characters in the Pokemon games to be completely useless. Steven is legitimately trying to help out, and it frustrates him that he can't. but all he gets is mocked for it, while Zinnia winds up stealing, committing property damage and all these other things, and then her plan backfires. Basically, you wind up getting to be the special ultimate hero because destiny said so, or something. And then you've got all the unnecessarily dark and pointless stuff surrounding Seymourville and Moorville Hills and the history of Mega Evolution. They did more to work Mega Evolution into the lore of Hoenn, and even then they kind of made it really edgy and unnecessary. You can have dark in a story. It's just that they made this unnecessarily dark. Alright, we are going into the battle of the big guns. This is going to be good. So, Gate Guardian and its head crotch do not actually have a special attack that hits all enemies. Alright, well I'll blast you around a little bit more, head crotch. Laser to the groin. Oh, right above the groin. That's gotta hurt. Yeah, that has really gotta suck for Suijin. Like, how did they decide that? Did they pick short straws or something? It's like, you get to be the crotch. What? Come on, why do I get to be the crotch? Why can't Kazugen get to be the crotch? Because I'm the torso. Because I'm the torso. Yeah, well, I can be the torso too. No, you're stuck as the legs and the crotch. Well, could you at least not put my head as the crotch? No, you're a dickhead. Shut up! I can imagine that argument never goes down very well. But yeah, so I didn't like a lot of the changes they made to the Hoenn remakes. They're good, but it's mostly because Ruby and Sapphire were good. I like the updated graphics. I don't know why they seem to make Hoenn the sort of epicenter for Mega Evolution when you consider that it's supposed to be Kalos. Because it's a big it's a big problem with the series. Only one Kalos Pokemon can Mega Evolve. And it got the ability to Mega Evolve in basically in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It wasn't available in X and Y, which is stupid. Instead, you got Lucario. Lucario was shoved down everyone's throat again. Okay, we're zoomed out still. Okay, tell you what. Zoom out so that we get a good Battle of the Titans. And there we go. Multiple lasers. So we should have this well in hand. I was kind of hoping for Gate Guardian versus Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. We will get to use Gate Guardian eventually. It's somewhat practical in this game, man. We should be able to survive its attacks anyway. Okay, so it's lost its super stamina. We still have ours. No, we don't. Damn it. Let's put a Fate Tempted counter up for that because it happened as soon as I said it. What are Gate Guardian's abilities? We should be able to ride out its attacks. So, Gate Guardian's abilities: Armor, Super Stamina, and Status Guard. Basically the same things we have. So yeah, I didn't really like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but at least they were pretty... I mean, I like them, but at the same time I do think they're very flawed, and it's not... They're not personal favourites. It's just that Heart Gold Soul Silver did so much to keep the original spirit of the game while enhancing everything that I feel they just kind of got it wrong a bit with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and really dropped the ball on Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Because if you haven't played Diamond and Pearl, they're an okay way to experience Diamond and Pearl. But if you've played Platinum at any point, there is absolutely no reason to play Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. None whatsoever. And I'd probably keep rambling, but we've run out of time. Got good levels into the blue eyes at least. And there we go. You won't get away from me, Scott! So we're ready to take on the final chapter at long last. Kaiba's story is almost done. Thank you very much for joining me. Till next time, this is Red 2, returning to base.